Robot, we live, and we're gonna talk about today and do our summary on the witchcraft, right? Because we put the John Todd tapes out, right? We got the Raziel tapes out, and we got more tapes coming out with Raziel because Raziel is the master of this particular school. He's gonna be able to break it down more, but we just want to cover a couple points before we move forward with this thing, right? And there's a lot of people scared of this. A lot of people don't want to deal with this type of information because they've been indoctrinated, right? They've been injected, right, with another spell of fear, another spell of not knowing, ignorance, right? Ignoring the facts, as Baba put it, right? And keep in mind Tahuti said, tie it all in together. So this goes back to 1478 during the Spanish Inquisition when the Roman Catholic Church wanted to steal our land. And this is dealing with three things. Like we said, it's dealing with fertility, it's dealing with survival, right? That's the first thing. Then it's dealing with good witches versus bad witches, right? That's the second thing. And then the third thing is about stealing our land and stealing our knowledge. And during 1478, during the Spanish Inquisition, different words were formulated to do this, right? To cast this spell. Because keep in mind, all words have to be spelled. So therefore, all words are spells. And therefore, they can be casted. The church formulated the word miracles, right, and magic to attribute to supernatural things. And we, right, are the natural beings. Right? Keep in mind, we let people who thought the world was flat, who wasn't that intelligent, give us a vocabulary and define the meaning of things. So keep that in mind. We're dealing with a Greek concept and a European concept which has nothing to do with us. We've been under a spell for a long time with their words and their definitions. Deaf means to keep you from hearing. And ignition means to start something up or give a spark to something. Their definition of magic is the power of apparently influencing the course of events by using mysterious or supernatural force. They go to the word supernatural again. Hold tight to the word supernatural because these were beings that didn't understand the high level sciences. And so they labeled things that they couldn't understand as supernatural or from some higher level being, right? Because you got to keep in mind when extraterrestrials come here from another dimension and they land here and they got all this high technology and advanced science, people say, oh, they gods, and their technology is like miracles and supernatural stuff, right? Keep in mind, we dealing with people who took scientific things that was over their head and labeled it as religion. And we're about to break all that down for you. Their definition of miracles is a wonderful event occurring in a physical world attributed to supernatural power. There go that word supernatural again, right? Because keep in mind, we dealing with people, like we said, who thought the world was flat. And when they came into Egypt, Tamaray, ancient Kemet, Africa, Akuba land, the land of Kush, the motherland, Coptic, whatever floats your boat, right? We had already had the higher sciences and the higher learning. We had already had the schools set up, right? In ancient Africa, right? We was already 10,000 years ahead of the Caucasian back then. And we still ahead of them from back then to now, right? He's still trying to figure out how we build the pyramids. He's still trying to figure out how we had electricity and sewer systems back in ancient Kemet. In ancient Kemet, we had the school of alchemy, right? And we were training alchemists, right? The word magic or the word miracles didn't even exist during this time. The word sorcery didn't exist, which their definition of sorcery is the use of magic, especially black magic. And we already gave you the definition of magic. It's people who have supernatural power. Also, the root word of magic is mag, which is contributed to magnetism. We'll get into that too, right? And like the 15 say, you can spin the word of sorcery around, right? Because the word source is the root word of sorcery, right? And you got source and ray there, right? They also formulated the word wizard, which their definition is a man who has magical powers. So it goes back to a man who has supernatural powers, right? And a witch is a woman who has supernatural powers, right? And all these words were formulated by the church so that they could take over, right? They labeled these words so that they can determine who was good and bad and then burn all the bad guys who really was the good guys, who really was us, who were living on our land, because keep in mind, amongst our family institutions or our tribal institutions, we had beings amongst us who were what they call witch doctors, right? And their definition of a witch doctor is a magician credited with powers of healing, divination, and protection against the magic of others, right? So they consider sickness as magic. Keep that in mind. We're gonna get back to that. They considered sickness as somebody had cast a spell on you, and that the witch doctor is the one that breaks the spell. And right, and what they was to do is create the word prophet, create the word miracles to protect their people while they exterminate our people, right? Like Baba said, if they like you, you a prophet and you do miracles. If they don't like you, you a wizard, you a witch, and you do sorcery, which is all the same dang on thing. It all goes back to supernatural powers, the super netters, the netarus, right? And we are the netarus. And what we was doing in our land when they came to visit us, what we was doing in our land was high level science. It wasn't supernatural. It was supernatural to them because they wasn't a god. Like the 15 said, what's a god to a god? What's a king to a king? They're equal, but they can never be our equal. Equality can never happen as far as the aspect of intelligence, because we have liquid sunlight, which is melanin, which is liquid carbon. We have the necessary fuel to access the fourth dimension, the mental reservoir, which is why we are the best songwriters, the best playwriters, hell, the best writers in anything, the best actors, right? And what they was to do under the Spanish Inquisition 1478 is to create all these spell words so they can label us, so they can colonize and captivate our land. That's what it's all about, man. And so they went around finding us who were practicing nature. We were practicing science, and we told them we don't need your God. And so they said, witch, warlock, wizard, burn them at the stake. You see the game? And we who were good wizards practicing science became bad wizards, and their wizards who was following their God became prophets and miracle workers. See, this goes back to the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, which I am the 23rd member on that council. And they refer to us as high priests, but we are really not priests, we are scientists. See, they created the word priest to protect their wizards. Now, on the left-hand side, this is our symbol of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek. And they copied us and created their own order, right? Called the Order of Saint Michael. And from this spawns the Knights of Templar. And keep in mind, all these groups are dealing with a high level of science and wizardry. And this symbol go all the way back. You can find it, this symbol in Egypt. The Coptic cross, they called it, right? Keep in mind, we are part of the ancient mystic order of Melchizedek, and we are all wizards. We are Magi priests, right? And Tahuti is the high wizard. Don't let them fool you with the spell words. The word wizard means wise man, wise art, but they came later and tried to say it means Wicca, which is their religion, because they base everything off of what they learned off us, and they took it and made it evil. Tahuti, which is the angel Michael, right? He's the one that taught all of us. He's the one who formulated the Emerald Tablets, right? Which is a book of magic. It's not that book that's online. You have to be able to access the fourth dimension to read the Emerald Tablets, right? From us, many groups spun. One of those groups being the Knights of Templar, right? Who are really a group of scientists, alchemists, alchemical assassins. Now you know what the Umbrella Corporation is all about, right? And why they are creating potions, vaccines. And keep in mind, note the longest spell that can be casted, it lasts 6 months. So this is why they got to keep recasting the spell every 6 months, right? Every 5 or 6 months, they got to keep recasting the spell because a potion wears off after 6 months. All real witches know that. And keep in mind, the witches been casting spells on us for quite some time. They use heroin, which was a potion. Crack cocaine was a potion, right? Drugs that are chemically mixed, right? Because keep in mind, it's dealing with alchemy, chemistry. Drugs are potions, witchcraft. A drug dealer is a wizard. especially if they cook the crack. Because if you cook the crack, you're using heat, thermal energy, you're mixing the chemistry together. Therefore, you are a wizard. You are a warlock if you selling and mixing crack cocaine, which is a potion. Even drugs being sold by the pharmacy, because keep in mind the word pharmacy means witchcraft when you trace it all back, right? And keep in mind all potions are based on the side effects. So the potions that they're cooking up to so-called heal you, all their potions have thousands of side effects that gives you 25 other things other than the one thing that you came in to get healed for. The practitioners who are wizards for the church, they say, take this and give me a call in the morning, right? But I'm gonna warn you now, when you take this, your gums might bleed. You might have suicidal tendency. You might have loss of appetite. You might have diarrhea. You might get headaches. You came in just for a cough. And now the medicine potion, right? That's what it is. So they use these words. You gotta break these spells of what things really are. They call it medicine and it's really a potion. It's witchcraft, right? And eventually we're gonna get rid of those words and just go to it's pure science. Because these are the words they label the stuff that we was doing that was considered supernatural. Supernaturals, right? Stuff that we was doing that they label as high level shit, and it really wasn't nothing but some science. We have been practicing this shit for thousands of years in Africa, and it really wasn't nothing but some high level science, right? But they was dumb as a box of rocks, so they said, oh, it's a miracle, or it's magic, or it's sorcery if they don't like you. You know what I'm saying? What it was is when the Caucasian came in, if you taught them, you was a prophet. You did miracles. If you wouldn't teach him your knowledge of the science, oh, you a sorcerer. You a prophet, you work for the devil. Because you gotta remember, the reptilians got mad because we wouldn't teach them how to ascend. In ancient Egypt, our scientists wore white robes. And they wore white robes because they were scientists, right? And they were working in laboratories. Today, why do your scientists wear white robes, who really are witches and warlocks? Why do your doctors wear white robes? Because they got it from us. They also shaved all their hair because they were working in a high level of electricity, working with flammable material, and your hair could cause static electricity and cause a spark, and they could blow the whole place up. So they shaved all their hair off. Also, hair could collect microbacteria that could affect the project. So this is why they were shaving the hair, right? That's the reason why they wear white robes. It wasn't because of no religious thing. See, they took what we was doing and turned it into religion. They took science and turned it into religion. And this was a spell casted by bad witches to keep you in a primitive mind state while they advance in science and art and technology. All these people were cavemen who came into Africa to our higher schools and colleges and higher temples of learning and learned different crafts. The craft is you a carpenter, you are a chemist, you are just like y'all got colleges now. People go to colleges. We already had colleges over here. We'll get into that too. But we had colleges in Africa going back millions of years, right? And we've been teaching the higher sciences. But when people come into our land who think the world is flat and try to study, and their intelligence is limited because of their brain and their genetics is limited, and we have no limit, right? Because we could go past the sun. We have no limit, but they are limited. So they had to formulate and create this. They had to turn what we condone as science into religion. And as John Todd said, and keep in mind about John Todd, he gave you 65% of information that was truth, and he gave you about 35% that was all BS, right? Because to me, listening to him, he was sent out to put out and mislead the people on the information. But we're about to clear a lot of things up. John Todd made reference to the witches that he worked for, getting all their information from Solomon. And we who are know there was no such being by the name of Solomon. They're really referring to Ramesses II, right? And a lot of the story of Solomon was taken from different pharaohs, right? Mainly Ramesses II, and one other pharaoh being Amenhotep III. The story of the chopping the baby in half story comes from Imhotep, when the two women came about the baby, and one woman was saying that the baby was hers, and the other woman was saying that the baby was hers. So Imhotep III said, all right, to make a long story short, I'll chop the baby in half and give you half and give you half. But one woman said, no, give him to her. And so Imhotep gave the baby to the girl that said that because he knew that it was her child. And they took that story and gave it to Solomon. Keep in mind, they're trying to tie into the vine. They're trying to find a way into our story so they can have a history. So the real Solomon is really Ramesses II, who summoned God or the Most High, Amen, during that time, right? I knew, because keep in mind, Solomon is dealing with the god On. Also, Solomon is who they attribute their Freemasonry to, right? That's who they say is the father of their Freemasonry, right? But I'm like Dr. Ben. If Solomon was the father of Freemasonry, then what shall we call Imhotep? The grandfather? And keep in mind, we go all the way back. Masonry go all the way back. We were the first Masons, Africans. We were the first ones laying stone, right? See, they incorporated these words magic and all that to make you spooked out, but we were the ones that know the crafts. We knew carpentry. We knew how to build. We knew how to lay stone. We knew how to make fire. We knew how to mold, the blacksmiths. All these are the crafts that they didn't understand. So they said that it was magic, and it really just was science and education and knowledge.